Hey guys, welcome back to MMA Library. Today in MMA and UFC news, Daniel Cormier and Ryan Clark discuss how Khamzat Chimaev would do in the middleweight division of the UFC. Here's the clip.
Going forward, I know Dana White has mentioned a move up to middleweight for Khamzat Chimaev. Now going forward, where do you see him fitting in to the UFC? Because it almost seemed like we were trying to usher him into that 170-pound opportunity at welterweight, which he may be too big for now.
You know what's crazy is his coach Andreas Michael said yesterday, the next one will be at middleweight because he loves everything about the process, Ryan, but the weight cut. He just came flat out and said it.
Okay.
But that leads to my question. It's like, he's going down to 170. Everybody's kind of ushering him there. Well, Israel Adesanya gets through Alex Pereira. He's starting to lap his division. Why wouldn't a very fresh new guy in Khamzat Chimaev be welcomed at middleweight? And he will. So it's like, because I always wonder, right? When I look at these guys like Chimaev that dominate in the way that they do, I always ask myself this. When I put him against Robert Whittaker, do you favor him? Paulo Costa, favor him. Put him against do you favor him? Dude, if he fought Alex, he would be a massive favorite because of the way that he fights. Because Pereira's a striker. He hasn't been in the game long enough to defend takedowns. It's like, how many of those guys would you favor Khamzat Chimaev to beat? And when you answer that question, it's many of them.
Right.
Because of his fighting style. And we saw it on full display with Kevin Holland, who at one point was in the top 10 at middleweight. So the guy is a very viable contender. I mean, right now you just take him out of welterweight, where he's the number 3 guy in the world, and you drop him in the middleweight, and he's probably somewhere in the top 10 right now.
Nate Diaz has recently released exclusive footage of the Backstage Brawl that took place at UFC 279. Here's the footage.
Yeah, you will. Going off here, just going off. Send them back. Yeah, King USA. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down, please. Good team. USA.
Darren Till talks about an extreme weight cut he had back in 2018 when he was preparing to take on Stephen Thompson.
Obviously, footage got released of me like collapsing on the treadmill, blah, blah, blah. And when I went to make weight in the morning time, I was like, you know, like the way the UFC did the fight to check weight, stuff like that. Stephen Thompson and his dad were there to check because they heard about me being a bit over. And at this point, Brett, I couldn't even stand. But I walked in there with a strong face, etc. And I was about 3 pounds over. I had an hour to make weight. And as I left the place, I said to my coaches, I said, take me to the place where they suck air from like your rectum. You know, it's called colonic irrigation. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I said, this is like our last hope. Let's try and lose 1 pound, 2 pounds. I had 3 pounds to go or something. So we did. We went there and I'd done it. It was the way, Brett, I was in so much pain, agony. And we did it. And it sucks water into you and sucks it out. That's how it works, colonic irrigation. And what it did is, because I had nothing in me, it sucked water, but my body kept hold of the water. So when I went to weigh back in, Stephen Thompson's dad was still there. And at this point, Brett, I was pure, couldn't see straight, blind, like on death's door. I was more heavier than the 3 pounds. And Stephen Thompson's dad was like, he's had a drink of water and all that. And I just looked at him and I just thought, you don't have a clue what I'm trying to do to make this weight.
Alexander Volkanovski replies to a tweet from Khabib and lets it be known that he's ready to fight Islam Makhachev or Charles Oliveira at UFC 280 if either of the lightweight contenders pull out. Khabib first tweeted, I just think Charles Oliveira will not show up in Abu Dhabi and the UFC will replace Charles with Beneil Dariush. To this, Volkanovski replied, I'll show up to fight either of them. I've got next. Conor McGregor recently shared some footage of himself shadowboxing on social media. In a recent video, Chael Sonnen had this to say about Khamzat Chimaev. Here's the clip.
It was the first sign that the guy who can't go wrong is a human being. Okay, I want you to hold that thought. But hey, why are we talking about it 2 weeks? We're not talking about any fight that happened that night. We're not talking about his fight that happened that night, nor have we. We're talking about a debacle on the scale the day before, and it's the only thing that we're still discussing. Now that deserves review. Why is that? Well, I think I just touched it on the head. It's the first time that he's been beat. Now you run into a question of why did he miss weight? Now Michael, who is known for his candor, came out and told us the date of the fight, they sped it up. In conjunction with the date of the fight versus what we came into camp, we were a little heavy. We did everything right. We got everything off. Our acceleration plan was right on track. Match was too soon. I can live with that answer because I understand it. It doesn't change the fact that weight was missed. You're dealing with a pretty big guy. But here's the good news. That pretty big guy who missed weight also has a professional, competitive, documented record at middleweight. That's where I'm not seeing the problem. I think if we put him back at 170 pounds and he ever misses again, and then we all want to walk around Mr. Surprised face, the evidence is right here. Now, I don't think I'm going to win this, by the way. I think they're going to do, I think he's going to get booked at welterweight. It's exactly what I think. I think a year from now, when we're having this conversation about Chimaev, which will be about 3 or 4 fights down the road, he's still at welterweight.
Last night, Cory Sandhagen finished Song Yadong in round 4 of their fight night main event. After the fight, he had this to say.
His game plan was a little bit interesting. I thought he'd move a little bit more. Yeah, it was good. It kind of threw me off a little bit in the beginning of the rounds. He was kind of like letting me hit him, you know? And that's always like a eerie feeling, you know? It's like, oh, why is this guy letting me jab him, you know? But yeah, I think I handled it well. I handled some good adversity in that fight, so I'm proud of myself for that. And like I said, it wasn't perfect by any means, but I think it was a step in the right direction, so I'm cool with it.
So I don't know if you've seen the scorecards yet, but 2 of the judges had it even, right? They had him taking 1 and 2. Like, I know you didn't know immediately afterwards, but when you hear that now, that it was even going into 5, I guess, what do you think of that? Are you, do you agree with that scoring at all? Are you a little surprised that he took both the first 2 rounds?
I knew it was close, but I think that I was picking up momentum. But no, I definitely knew it was close. I definitely was going to go into the 5th round and like try to absolutely win that round.
Last thing for me, you know, you threw out the names. I mean, you know the state of the division, right? You just said the ones that make sense. But are any of the names more preferable over the others, or more just about a date on the calendar and whoever can show up?
No, not really. I think as like a martial artist, I try not to have many opinions about anything. You know, I live in a way where I just more or less try to go with the flow and let life, you know, give me opportunities and me take them. So, Chito or Merab are the obvious names. Both of them posed very different challenges, two completely opposite fighters almost. So I don't really care, man. You know, give me one of them for Christmas.
Guys, thanks so much for checking out the video. If you like the content we do here on this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to MMA Library for all the latest MMA and UFC news. We'll see you in the next video.